Hello everybody, my name is Connor and I am here with 2 games. That's right, 2 games because the first one went so fast. So we are playing a Yamato build that I put together myself. It's a bit of a rush variant, and I really like it. I think it's working pretty well, but not in this game. So we ended up playing Rush Zoro for the first round of this tournament, my Thursday night tournaments. Those are the good days, those are the sweaty days. And I just needed that break from Croc, so I put together this green-yellow Yamato. I'm really excited to finally play Yamato on paper. I've been wanting to for a while, and I feel like this deck, not in this game, I think this is the worst that the deck performed all night, and as you can see, I just lack counters, and this is after the mulligan. So he swings 5. I end up giving him the Yamato 2k, just because I didn't feel like she was that valuable. Realistically, I don't like that play, but we end up taking the second 5 hit, and we get another Hody. Crazy. I have 2 Hodies in my hand when I run 3. That's not really a card you want to see multiple of in your hand. And at 4 Dawn, I'm trying to figure out what the best option is. And I end up swinging 9 into face. And at this point, I swing large because I think, okay, he'll get low. And then I can start, I can play out Kikinojo. I can play, if I get another, Nekomamushi trigger or something like that, I can start triggering out things if he gets low. But my opponent he's not new to the, I'm pretty sure he's relatively newer. And this is a deck that he borrowed. He's been borrowing somebody else's deck, and they weren't there. So somebody lent him this Zoro deck. So he is not super familiar with it, but he ends up countering out of this 9k hit. And I, to quote, what is that, Palpatine? It was a surprise, but a welcome one. I was like, okay, cool. He's got 2 cards in hand at this point. I can manage. I can do this. The joke is on me, though. So he drops, I can't remember how to say his name, Mogwa? I'll put a picture up of him because I just butchered his name. Buffing up 1000 Sunny there, and he ends up also dropping the Sanji, which is when I ran Zoro in OPO6 when I started the channel. I did a tournament with Zoro, and I really liked that Sanji card. It's a really great card for Zoro. And then he swings 6 into me, and I have no choice but to take. I get the Momonosuke blocker, or not blocker, excuse me, searcher. I know, bye. And he swings, 7, and I decide to give him all my counter. Not sure I agree with that play at this point. And then he swings 5, and I have to take it. So I think that I definitely fumbled the countering here. I think I was pretty shook about not getting counter. Because I will make sure my list is down below, but it's not like my list is like, it's not like I don't have enough counter. Like, when I was building my list, I made sure to have enough counter because I don't like not having the counter. So yeah, just kind of an unlucky situation here. We're 4 minutes into the game and I have 1 life, and 1k counter in my hand. Like, that is rough. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I'm torn between clearing, like, I know I need to clear his board, and at this point with 5, I'm torn between playing Rush Ace and hitting another, person on board, hitting the 1000 Sunny with it, which is overkill, but, we need it, or playing the Momonosuke blocker. I feel like potentially Rush Ace would have been the better choice, but I do end up tapping 5 and playing, surprise, surprise, I end up playing the blocker, just because I'm trying to live a little bit, a little longer, long enough to, be able to get things, on the board, cooking, basically. But, with 3 able attackers and 1k counter, I did feel like the block was the best choice. Like, I don't. Yeah, I think at this point in the game, I'm just in a tough spot. Like, I kind of knew, like, when I opened my hand, my mulliganed hand, I don't know if I mentioned that was the mulligan, and I just had no counter. I kind of knew I was going to be in a hard spot, and then not drawing a lot of counter definitely hurt, especially against, Zoro. I know Zoro is very aggressive, very aggro. He's rushing me down, and yeah, I'm not having it. I am not getting that. Yeah. So he attaches one Dawn onto Zoro here, making everybody plus 1,000, which is a really good leader ability. I really like Zoro, man. I definitely would play Rush Zoro again. I actually really do want to play Whitebeard. I know that we were between Yamato and Whitebeard, but Yamato won, and I'm okay with that. I like my build. I like where it's going. I'd be interested in feedback from you guys, and this is a pretty poor showing of it, honestly. So as you can see, we take our last life, and it's another blocker. And I'm like, oh, there's no, like, I was hoping for some trigger or some counter, and I got nothing. Like, that is so unlucky. But one thing I am realizing is I'm a genuinely unlucky person for the most part. And this game was just a statement of how unlucky I am. So yeah, he swings. I was able to 1k out. He swings again, and look at my top. Look at this. Like, I shuffled so much too. So first game, the game that counted, I got smoked. I got smoked in 7 minutes. But now we are going to go into the second game, and my deck does so much better this game, I promise. Alright, so here we are all set up for game 2. I end up going first this game. My opponent gets 2 Dawn, draws his card, and this happened last night. At this point, it's a new day. I didn't have the energy in me to do the voiceover last night after the tournament for this game. The other game, yes. And as you can see by my starting hand, I'm a little worried. I've got no counter again. My opponent ends up getting 2 bodies on the board for 1 Dawn. Don't worry, he taps it. There it is. But, so I end up with a Hiyori. And I'm like, okay, that's enough counter. I'm feeling like I can do something here. And I swing 8 into face. Had to count real quick. I swing 8 into face, double attack, hoping I can, get my stuff to be able to be triggered out, like my Hiyori, or excuse me, my Kikinojo and my Nekomamushi. And he counters out again, bringing him down to 1 card. I'm so okay with that. Granted, as I mentioned when we went over the last game, my opponent is new to the Zoro deck. I think he would have been fine taking the hit, but he felt like he wanted to counter out at this point. This is a bonus game anyway, so this is just for fun, get him some more practice on Zoro, and get me feeling my deck a little more. He attaches the 1 Dawn to Zoro, boosting everybody up by 1k. And he was joking there about swinging 1000 Sunny, and I thought it was funny, even though my demeanor looks very serious right now. He swings 6 into life, and I end up taking it, and I get the Momonosuke Searcher, and I'm okay with that. I give him the Yamato 2k, and so versus my opponent Zoro here, and then I'm not sure if I'm gonna add it or do a commentary on it on the channel, but the next game I play is versus my friend Riley on a Nell. And I really fumbled the bag, I think, so I'm on the fence if I want to do a commentary on that one yet. But both of these games, I forgot about Yamato's second ability. I just keep thinking that double attack is her ability. So I end up swinging in 6 into Zoro, and he's got 1 card, so he lets it go. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I'm thinking I could play the 4-drop and get out the blocker, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. That doesn't seem like it's worth, it's got a lot of value. So I end up playing Momonosuke. I will tap him in a second, and I am searching, and I get a pretty solid search except for 2 of my 3 Hodies. That's unfortunate. So I end up taking the 2k Yamato. I don't think Momonosuke can't grab himself. unfortunately. And, you know, honestly, seeing that counter is great. So, just trying to figure out what I want to do here. I go ahead and remember to tap Momo and pass turn. So the blocker Momonosuke is super great. It's, if you're not super familiar with it, I'm a big fan of the card, especially with playing Yamato. I feel like there's so much more value in having like a Wano build and using that, because if you don't know, the blocker Momonosuke can put a Land of Wano character back into your life, so it's a little bit of health regen for Yamato, which I really like. Unfortunately, he can't put the Searcher back, so that's okay in this situation. So my opponent is reading the Searcher, and I remember distinctively, we're just, you know, goofing around, having a good time, and I'm like, no, don't swing into it, don't swing into it. And my friend next to him's like, swing into it, kill him. And I'm like, no, don't do it, you know. Honestly, this was a super fun tournament. I think even though I went, I didn't do terrible, but I didn't do great. He ends up swinging into Momo, and I have to let him go, unfortunately. But I feel like just being on a fresh deck, and I do have a little bit of pride because, as I said, I did put this together myself. I looked at a couple Yamato builds, and I feel like it's a pretty generic Yamato build, but I am feeling pretty happy about it. So he swings 6. I counter out with Yamato. I end up taking, and it's a Kikinojo, which is so unfortunate, because my opponent is still at 5 life at this moment. So yeah, just being on this deck felt really good. I'm really enjoying it. I'll probably play it some more, and I am hoping, so the store that I'm playing at in this video actually did get a store regionals, and I'm really hoping to get into it. And so I'm trying to figure out what deck I want to play at a more competitive level. I really like Purple Yellow Croc, but it doesn't like me. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to play. So I end up tapping 2 to play out the Hiyori, and I take the top life, which is an Izo Searcher, which is wonderful. And I'm thinking about playing Kikinojo out this turn, so I end up putting Ace in there just because I didn't really have anything else that I felt like putting Ace, or anything else I felt like playing out. So I end up playing, I play the Hiyori, and I end up dropping the Momonosuke blocker, and then putting the other Hiyori in my life, and then I get to draw a card, and I get the Onami. So that's great. I do have another Hiyori, and I have no issue taking the Hiyori, the initial hit. So I swing 6 into Luffy just to clear him from board. I do want to go for life because I do have the Kikinojo, that's her name, in my hand, and it's just a really I think Kikinojo is such a good card. I know that it's really hard to play around. I know I always struggle with and I think one thing, I just saw this comment before I started recording this voiceover. One thing I struggle with is knowing when to clear board and when to go for face. And I think Kikinojo, like playing, like, Kikinojo makes that really hard because you're playing a, you know, if you clear that board, they're going to gain life, and it makes it harder to win and go for face, you know. So he goes ahead and swings, what is that, 6, and I end up taking, because he already has another 2k, and I do have another 2k. He swings 6, and I just give him the 2k I just got. And then I think this is a 5, and yeah, so that's a 5. He blocks with Momo, or he swings 5, and I counter out with the Izo, thinking that she's not really going to get a lot of value here, or he's not really going to get a lot of value here, excuse me. And we get to 9 Dawn. I'm feeling pretty confident. He does have a pretty big board, which is scary, especially because, like, I feel like Zoro plays these low bodies and then buffs everything up, and then you just put the rest of the Dawn on your characters to buff them up. So I'm definitely trying to think about what I want to do here, and I'm just kind of sorting my Dawn to see. And I'm thinking at this point, if I remember correctly, I'm gonna Hiyori the Kikinojo back into my life, and I'm torn between Kikinojo and Onami. And I'm pretty sure I go with Kikunojo, but I may do Onami. Oh no, I put Banish on Yamato. Because now he has 1 card in hand. And I'm tempted to go 6, but I'm like, if it's a 2K, I really want to make sure that this card, the card in his hand, cannot get him to counter out. And so we end up banishing 2 life of his, which is great. It's the guy whose name I butchered. I know he's part of the the Mountain Bandits, I think, where the boys TM grew up. And then with the rest of my Dawn, I'm trying to decide what I want to do, and I think I end up putting, so I go for Rush Ace, and I swing into Zoro, just to clear board. I know I was torn between the Momo blocker and, but you know what, that makes sense, because I don't have any land of Wano. So I end up playing Rush Ace to get some pressure, and almost to kind of make him like a pseudo blocker, in a way, kind of, not bait, but entice my opponent into swinging into that instead of my life. It is a big body. It's easy to make that body bigger too. So definitely hoping to entice my opponent to swing into that. So my opponent goes ahead and plays out the Nami to get the search off. And we're... I remember he was looking through, and my friend next to him was looking, and I remember he said, you can pick any of those, so he gets a nice search. You know, the world is his oyster. He's got so many cards to choose from. 5 cards to be exact, actually. And, so at this point in the game, I am a little nervous, because I am lower on life than I'd like to be. But one thing I've kind of noticed about the Yamato build I've had is it's kind of I'm going to take my life and rush at your face. And I feel like I definitely play it better in some of the other games that I played in this tournament. So, yeah, my opponent gets the guard point from the Nami search, which I think is a really great card for them to get, honestly, because, simply because I'm applying a lot of pressure to face, and if I have another, Onami, that is tough. So he swings into Ace. I go ahead and let Ace go. It's so hard. And then he passes turn with 2 Dawn up, which I'm like, okay. At this point, I think I should have realized that he had, like, a guard point, or I should have realized that he had 2 events. But I did not. I swing on Nami in 2000 Sunny, and he dies. I take the top of my life, which was that Ace, and I end up playing Kikunojo there, just because, that feels pretty good. And at this point, I really wanted to play out the Momo blocker and put Hiyori back in life. And I think I end up doing that. I know I was torn between Momo or going Rush Ace again, and I do end up playing out Momo. And I do put Hiyori in my life. I forget for a second here. Oh, and there I'm like, oh yeah, that goes to my life. Which I really love that, like, mechanic. I think that's such a good, like, it feels so good, and it's just good. So I go double attacks 8 here, I think. 8, yeah. And my opponent guard points and rad beams, which I wanted to make sure he was doing the math right, and so did my friend next to him. We just wanted to make sure he was doing the math right, because as I mentioned, he is new to Zoro. I think the last deck I saw him on was Anel, and I know he's at a point where he's just kind of borrowing decks that people have, and honestly, that's great. If I ever have an extra deck, he can absolutely play with it. I love that. I know that, when I started the game, somebody lent me their Zoro deck, and it was a great deck to learn the game on, and it was like such a kind gesture in a moment where I needed it. I'll never forget that. Shout out to my boy X here. But anywho, back to the game. So my opponent has 2 bodies on board, and they're pretty small, and he has 1 card in hand, and it's the card he just drew. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to swing life. I'm going to take both these hits. I get a 2k in my hand. On top of the 2k I already have, I have Rush Ace, and I'm going to get Kikunojo on board. So I'm feeling like we are in a good position here. Especially because both Sanji and Nami are smaller bodies. I think Nami's a 1K or a 2K, I can't remember. Hopefully I remember to put a picture in of Nami. He swings, what is that, 5, 6, 7, and I take it, I'm like, oh, I'll take it, wow, crazy, there's a Hiyori there, I had no idea. And then he swings, oh god, I have to do math. He swings pretty big, but I end up playing out the Kikinojo, yeah, that's kind of why I put it there. And I'm thinking, my opponent has 3 life. I feel like I can get 3 life off of him in this turn at least. And he ends up dropping Brook, which is a 2K, which I remember he did say, oh, if I saw this was a 2K before I played it, I wouldn't have played it. And I was like, yeah, I've been there. Definitely been there. But he loads up Nami, huge swings, and I just block out. Now, is that the play? I'm not sure. But we get another Onami, and I'm like, sick. I'm gonna go ahead and banish 2 of his life. He's got no cards in hand. I swing the Nami into Sanji. That seemed accurate, lore accurate, if you will. Nami would absolutely beat up Sanji, and, you know, we all know Sanji doesn't beat up women. So, I'm splitting up my Dawn to see what I can do, and I'm thinking, so I can, with the Yamato hit, getting the double attack, that really helps me in this situation, because instead of having, like, the 4 hits, I only need, like, 3. That's math. So, yeah, I was torn between playing Hiyori and putting Onami in life, but I decided to go ahead and just banish with Yamato, and I'm like trying to do math, and I remember I'm like, okay, how much Dawn should I put on it? And he's like, I've got nothing in hand. And I was like, oh, right. So we end up banishing another Makino and a Janbei there. So I swing 6, and he ends up taking. I go ahead and tap 5, play out the rush ace, and I don't even need to put my Dawn on, but, so yeah, and then my last life was another Hiyori, so I feel like that was a really solid game for me. Granted, I do know my opponent was kind of feeling out his deck, but considering the first game, my opponent beat me in 7 minutes, I was much happier with this game, and he's looking through his deck right now, wondering where his rush characters were, which, yeah, but that is my matches against Zoro. I had a really fun time, and I'm gonna watch through the NL video, which is the game I play next, and see if I want to post it. I don't think it'll be the next video I post. I think the next video I'm gonna post is Yamato vs. Sabo. So if you want to see the NL video, let me know down below. I'm on the fence about it. I don't think it's a very exciting game from my perspective, at least. But it is against my friend, so, I mean, everybody's my friend, but it's against my good friend Riley, who, I've played on the channel before, and I've bullied him into starting his own YouTube channel, which is great. But, yeah, I'll wrap it up here, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked this video, hit that like button down below. It helps me out more than you could ever know. Go ahead and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.